Hi, it's me Jim from Silverfish Art. I'm here to show you how to apply adhesive vinyl stencils to your knives for electro etching. These stencils I sell over at my store. I include a link in the description, and they're ready-made and ready to apply. And they're very easy once you get the hang of it, but I'm going to give you all the tips necessary just to ensure that you get the best possible transfer, which ultimately gives you the best possible etch for your blade. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be etching the surface of this arrow stapler here, and using these sample stencils, which are exactly the same as they'll come if you've purchased stencils from me. They will come exactly like this, so it will give you the best idea possible of how to apply them straight out of the box. I'll be using this homemade electro etching machine. I'll include the link as well as to where I got this from. I'm unsure who it was now, but I looked at a couple of guides, and they're not too hard to build at all, but there's plenty of alternatives as well. So first off, I'm just going to explain about these stencils and how we go about the application. So I sell them. You might get them in strips of maybe 6 or more. You cut them off as you intend to use them. So I'll put these aside now and use this one. The stencil is in the middle, and they're on a smooth piece of backing paper, and on the front there is a clear adhesive tape. And now the aim of this is, what we want to do is we want to remove this paper backing from the stencil and the tape, and we want to leave all of the stencil remaining stuck to the tape without allowing any of the details to be stuck onto this surface here. So before we start, we're just going to make sure that the surface is clean. Now, obviously, you want your surface to be as immaculate as possible. It needs to be free from any grease or dust, dirt, or anything like that. I use lighter fluid. It's great for cleaning off glue and some greasy elements as well. It's a really good cleaning fluid. And then I'm going to follow it with some isopropyl alcohol, because what I find with that is that it seems to take any small particles of grease or dirt, and it lifts any residue that might have been left behind from the lighter fluid. The fluid is also good for once you've finished etching your design. It can be used to remove the glue that might be left behind from the stencils as well, without you causing too much abrasion to the surface of your knife. Okay, so first off, what I say is to apply pressure to the face of the whole of the stencil. Now what this makes sure is that any details of the stencil are well stuck to this adhesive tape that's on the face. If you go at it straight away, what can happen is the tape on the face hasn't got enough of a good hold on the stencil, and it ends up lifting, or it ends up leaving behind some small details, and that's not what you want, of course. We're going to turn it round on this face, and we're going to carefully get a hold of the release paper tape on the back of it. Now what we want to see, I'm going to use a knife here as well, just to hold the stencil down where it is. Now as you can see, I'm pulling this paper back at a very sharp angle, and what that means is it's going to force away any details of the stencil that might want to remain stuck to the paper, and that's very important. As you can see here, this has gone very well, but you might notice in your case, if you've got small details, that the stencil will remain stuck to this. And what you notice, once you start peeling this back, if you see that it's stuck to there, you just replace the paper back where it was and apply pressure to the back of the stencil, to the back of the paper. And then you want to fold it back again and just continue that at a sharp angle until it's completely off and you've got no details left on the paper. Now we're going to get our surface for etching. My stencils have got a clean tape on them so that you can see all the way through for the best possible placement on your knife. I'm not really too bothered about this one, so I'm not going to take too much care in just applying that. You can find it easier if you've got a particularly large design to put a slight bend in the stencil and allow the center to come in contact with it first, and then you can start by smoothing the centre out and pushing outwards. You want to ensure that you've applied pressure to the whole of the face of the stencil, covering all the details, so that just ensures that all of the stencil has made good contact with the surface that you're etching onto. You want to start by peeling back the application tape and do it at a sharp angle, the same way as with the paper. You're going to peel it back like this, and the same again. You shouldn't have too much problem this time round, but if any details remain stuck to the tape, you want to replace the tape back down, apply pressure again, and continue to peel it backwards like this. As I say, the adhesive on the stencils is very strong and is permanent if you leave it for long enough. So that should have good tack to the surface that you're etching onto. If it's a clean steel, there should be no problem, because this, the adhesive is only light and it doesn't go off over time, so it wants to stick more to your surface than it does to the tape. Now some people just go ahead and etch this straight away, but just to ensure that you don't get any bleeding, and by that I mean any etching around the corner of of the stencil boundary here of the margin, I do include these with a 10mm mask border all the way around here, but still it can be favourable for you if you're working on a particularly large area, that you might want to just continue to mask off any surrounding areas, just so then it minimises your amount of cleanup afterwards. Obviously, if you've already finished the grinds and everything on your knife, which you will have done, the last thing that you want to do is to have to take it back to the grinder to clean up around the stencil. It's just unnecessary. For the time it takes to apply a little bit of masking tape, it's just well worth doing, isn't it? Okay, so we're going to go ahead and etch through the stencil now. And one thing I like to do just before we start to etch is to use the piece of release paper that we had before and place it over the surface of the stencil, as it's now attached to the surface of your steel, and just apply pressure now again. This isn't always necessary, but is especially necessary for small detailed designs, or designs with small detail in them. It just ensures that there's a nice clean tack to the surface that you're working on. And now we're going to go and clip the negative side of your of our etching machine onto. Well, you probably can't see that, can you? I'll move that there instead. We're going to clip it onto the steel there. If we turn it on, we've got it in the DC setting. If you have that option. Now the good thing with these stencils is that you don't really get with the screen print style of stencils is that when you want to clean in between of any gunk or impurities that might have clogged up the stencil, it's easy enough to just dab like that and you've not moved anything, nothing's come out of place. So it gives you a nice clean etch that way. Okay, so we're on AC now. We should darken up our etch. Of course, if you've got a detail with lots of small designs, small details even, you want to make sure that you've got enough padding on your etching pad so that it can force its way through. So, you know, when you apply pressure onto the face of the stencil, that it can push through and ensure that it's getting in all the areas of the detail between the stencils. Okay, I think I'm happy with that there. And switch the machine off. Remove our tape. Now, because you've not left it for so long, it should just come off fairly easy once you get a lift on it. And since this doesn't have any what I call islands on the design. You don't have to pick anything else off there, but I'm sure you will, and if you do, then as I recommended before, using lighter fluid here is great for removing any adhesive without being too abrasive to the surface. It won't require you to do any more post cleanup whatsoever, just using that to give a light rub on any of the areas where the glue or residue might have been left behind. And then following that, you can use acetone or again isopropyl alcohol just to remove any residues there. Okay, so thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful for you. If you've got any other questions, you can answer them in the comments below, or you know, my details are on the website. You can just contact me through there. Thanks very much, and have a nice day. Bye.